Okay, we should be live.
Sweet.
Still connecting to Facebook, but let's get going here.
All right.
Maybe or maybe not. The Facebook window will open, but you never know with this technology.
Well, I see it's being recorded, so that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we got that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah, I remember to press record because I have a little sign here.
There you go. You know, you got to have those notes, big guy.
Yep. So when people jump on, we'll ask them if they have questions from yesterday. But you want to kind of recap what we talked about yesterday?
Yeah. So, you know, and yeah, I would definitely go back and check out the recording that we did yesterday. And really what we dove into is this first phase of it is, you know, a lot of times when people want to get into selling, they want to learn about the catchphrases and the catchy neuro-linguistic programming and all of that fun stuff. And really, I don't think that's the right place to start based on my almost 30 years experience of selling. And the first thing you've really got to get dialed into is, we talked about the business growth strategies of Starbucks that any entrepreneur can use. And what that really boils down to is Starbucks is very clear about who they are and who they're not. And when you're clear about who you are versus who you're not, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more comfortable for you to sell from a place of your authenticity, of who you are, of how you're created, versus going out and trying to be something that you're not. So I thought it was a good session, and I think we had some pretty good comments on it too.
You know, I was reading a book by our friend Tom Hubyar this morning.
I loved, God bless him, God rest, as we like to say in Chicago, God rest his soul.
Yes. So his thing was, there's a huge difference between knowing how to do something versus being able to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom was a great man. He's a great man.
So we know a lot of people know the steps to doing something, but they aren't able to do it.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that really just comes from, you know, they're trying to be something that they're not. You know, you have to find your own language when it comes to selling. You know, Ted and I can sit here and I could sit next to you and give you all the words. But it has to become your own. You know, I have 2 kids now, one that's 3 kids total.
I think it really just comes from
one is out of college and the other one is in
trying
college.
To be something that they're not.
And I'm getting a little feedback. I don't know if that's you or me.
Yeah, the Facebook just kicked in. Okay.
Okay. Got it. So anyway, you know, and when it comes to, like, I'll give you an example, you know, my kids' faith, they're, you know, I've told Megan and Andrew, you know, when you're up to about 17, 18 years old, your faith is really mine, right? And after that, then you have to go on this discovery of understanding your faith. And, you know, the same thing holds true when I train salespeople, is I can give you all the scripts in the world, but if you have to internalize those scripts so that it comes directly from you and who you are. And I always hire people that dial in with our company values, so I'm not worried about them going off the reservation. But basically, you know, it's gotta become part of who you are. And I think when you understand this first section that we did on values, then it becomes a lot easier for it to become a part of who you are, and it sounds authentic.
Right. It's funny. I was sitting in the hot tub here after skiing all day yesterday. I was talking to this guy, and we own a unit here. He goes, how much to buy? I said, it's only $1,000 to buy a unit. And literally, we are on the ski slope.
$1,000, that's it?
That's it. And then it's like $800 a year maintenance fee. So we pay a little over $100 a night to stay here. And then you can stay extra nights for like $60 a night or something crazy. So he's looking to buy across the street where it's like 500,000 to $1 million. You know, we're talking and he goes, oh my God, I'm going to go in there and buy one right now. Do you get a commission? It was pretty funny. It was like,
well, but you know, you're coming from a place of authenticity, right? You know, so I think that's a really good point.
Okay. What are we talking about today?
All right. So today we're going to talk about breaking down the barriers, or as I like to call, softening the beachhead. And I want to give you a little bit of background and a little bit of context on this before I dive into this topic. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I'm on my 6th startup. My last startup is probably my favorite, and probably not the favorite of all my friends too. But about 5 years ago, I started and owned and operated and was general managing partner of erectile dysfunction clinics. Yep, I gave men erections for a living. So look, who can't get excited about a great erection, right? So I'll just get that out on the table right now. I'm sure that'll get 1 or 2 negative comments and a lot of chuckles. But here's the reality of it, is that, our good friend John Paul Mendoza, he always says, you got to sell the solution to the bleeding neck, right? And if you can't get an erection, you've got a bleeding neck, right? Now, for women, some women might be saying, why is that so important to a guy? Well, remember that guys get their sense of worth one of 2 ways: the money we make and the sex we have. And if we're not interested in either one of those, then there's probably a good ball game on TV, or we want a sandwich. That's really about it. That's about all you ever need to know about guys if you're a female. And I literally would train my female staff members. They would have to go through training to understand what guys wanted in life. And, I've yet to find a guy that really disagrees with that. They might want to add a little nuance to it, but, Ted, it's pretty much true. We care about the money we make and the sex we have. So if a guy can't perform in the bedroom, you are basically hitting his DNA, basically how we're wired. I mean, men are designed and wired to basically conquer, okay? I know that in the Me Too world, that's probably not a favorite thing to say, but the reality is we are hardwired to conquer, and sex and making money is 2 ways that we conquer, along with eating a really big sandwich, okay? So when it comes to breaking down the barriers, you need to understand this about your prospect. So in our case, a patient would come in, they've tried pills, potions, pumps, and porn, and they haven't been able to get an erection in 2 years. And so they'd come in, they'd fill out medical paperwork, they would meet with the doctor, and the doctor would give them a test dose, and then we would actually get them a result in the office. We would get it to happen in the office within 10 to 12 minutes without any stimulation. We used localized medication. I'm not going to go into how we did that. That's not the context of this in part of this call. But here's the thing that always struck me, and I did this for 5 years. I met with a lot of patients. We saw anywhere between 10 to 12 new patients per day per clinic, and I had 3 clinics in 3 different cities. We spent about $150,000 to $180,000 a month in advertising to bring patients in. And here's what I always thought was really cool. And I learned this at about the 3rd month of doing this. No one ever argues with the doctor. And I want you to really think about this. I'm not a doctor, okay? I didn't have Dr. Matt in front of my name. I didn't have Dr. Galogli. People would call me doctor and I would correct them, okay? So again, to be very clear, I was never trying to pass myself off as somebody I'm not. That would go against my values, okay? But I always wore a coat and a tie, okay? I always had a suit and tie on every single day, dressed, kind of how I am today, but, I'd have a suit and tie on, and I wore it every single day in the clinics. But because I was viewed as the authority, people always called me doctor. Even after I told the patients, I'm not a doctor. And they would say, yeah. But anyway, so Dr. Matt, guys at the country club where I hang out, half of the staff call me Dr. Galogli, and half of my friends call me Dr. Galogli, and they know that I'm not a doctor. Well, my friends know I'm not a doctor. I don't know about the staff. So they always call me doctor. And what I learned from this is no one argues with the doctor. If you have, so we would go in and we would recommend a course of treatment for the patient, and we would recommend a price, okay? So doctor says you need to do this, you want to have sex so many times a week, the annual plan is $5,000, okay? And that's it. We wouldn't negotiate. There was no, what have you got in your pocket right now? Like, what if I got you some free Z-Bot with that? What if I got you some free floor mats? None of that. State the price and shut the heck up. Because if you think about this, when was the last time you argued with your doctor if you had a bleeding neck? I'm not talking about arguing with your doctor about your kid's ear infection, okay? I'm not, please save the text messages if doctors don't know what the hell they're doing. I was married to a registered nurse, an ER nurse for years, okay? Like a lot of my friends, they go through a lot of training, okay? That's not the topic of this conversation. What I'm saying is, if you have a bleeding neck, think about it. If you have a bleeding neck, if you got blood gushing out of your neck, are you going to argue with the doctor about what they are going to do? And the answer is no, okay? If you need open heart surgery and the doctor's recommending a quadruple bypass, are you going to sit there and go, hey, doc, can I just do one bypass and see how it works? No, you're going to go, I want to live, okay? So in order to soften the beachhead is first and foremost, you've got to find the bleeding neck, the starving crowd, okay? And then the second thing is that you have to take a position of authority. That is what being the doctor means. And it's been fascinating to me. Even though I've sold my controlling interest in those clinics, people at the club still call me Dr. Matt. People still think of me as the ED guy, all right? And they don't argue with me. It's the most fascinating thing in the world, Ted. And I think, what people need to understand, especially when if you're first starting out and you've never done sales, you get so hungry to do that sale, you'll take anything. You'll make any deal you possibly can. And that is from a position of weakness. A doctor would never, ever go, well, God, if I can I know he needs 4 bypasses. If I can just get him to do 2, I can make pick. No, that's not how it's not how they think. They tell you what the deal is, and there's no arguing with them. And some doctors can be a little pompous about it. I'm not suggesting you be pompous. I am suggesting, though, that you take a position of authority. And, our good friend Robert Cialdini talks about authority in one of his books, but we're going to dive into that later on and go into deeper into the other 6 forms of influence that there are. So, what are your comments on that?
I'm just sort of comes to mind the Oprah effect. If Oprah recommends anything, millions of people run out and buy it, no matter what it is. They trust her as the authority.
Yep. Yeah, and you might be sitting there going, well, I'm not Oprah. Well, you know what? I've got 7 years of college and 1 degree. I mean, the closest, I used to get queasy when I drove by a Walgreens. That's how much I enjoyed the sight of blood, right? As I used to say, the closest I ever got to the medical field is I slept with a nurse. I mean, and that was my, then wife. But all kidding aside, I think I'm a smart person. I'm not necessarily a medical person. I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I was in the field for 5 years. I understand it. But the thing is that I had confidence in my ability, and you have to view in your life, you are an authority. Okay. One of the things that we hear from people a lot is, well, I don't have any successful clients. Well, okay. So you're 45 years old. You don't have any successful clients. When you worked for someone else, were you able to provide value? Do you have testimonials and recommendations from people when you were working at whatever XYZ company? And they go, well, yeah, okay, use that. Use that to show that you are the authority, that you are the doctor, okay? A doctor has a benefit. They have a degree of their undergrad, UVA, they go to med school, and I did my med school at University of Iowa, and I did my residency in Omaha or whatever. I did it at Stanford, or, heck, even if they did their residency in Timbuktu, it sounds impressive. So what you view as your success is what makes you an authority. You don't think it's all that great, but the rest of the world does. And I think that's a really important thing for people to understand. You don't have to be Oprah. You don't have to be a doctor that went to Harvard. Heck, one of my doctors is a cardiologist, and he went to med school in Italy, for God's sakes. But he was great. He was fantastic. But you've got to show people that you're the authority, even if it's recommendations or referrals or anything from like when you were working in corporate America, or you did some other, it could have been, for years I used my recommendations of the great service that I gave people when I was working for Marriott. I mean, it just shows the type of character and person that you are.
I had a similar experience when I wrote my first book about LinkedIn. I was not a LinkedIn expert at the time, but I just wrote this book. It was published by a good publishing company, Entrepreneur Press. And then I just started doing a lot of social media posts from excerpts of the book. And then people started perceiving me as a LinkedIn expert. So in today's world, it's not that hard to become an expert.
No, it's not. And I think, the thing too is you had the background too of being an expert on the pay-per-click side of things, right? With everything that you built in the prior company, and just also your experiences prior in your other business ventures. So, for you to say that you were a LinkedIn expert was not that much of a stretch, right? It was really, LinkedIn is, it's like any other social media out there. It's very, very similar from a monetization standpoint. So, you had your success in pay-per-click or Facebook and all of that. And so now you're able to have it very easily with the LinkedIn because it translates very, very easily. I'm really a marketing person. And, when I went into the medical field, I didn't know much about the medical field, but, thank God I now have 5 years experience in it. And so anyway, you really, you have to recognize the fact that you are an expert. And remember, when you want prospects that have a bleeding neck. First and foremost, you need prospects that have a bleeding neck. They have to have pain. And then the second thing is you're the doctor, no one argues with the doctor. They don't negotiate price with the doctor, especially when they have a bleeding neck. They go, fix me, doc. Just fix me. I want to live.
So you essentially acquired your expertise and that credibility by partnering with a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good point. Yeah, you can borrow it as well. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
The fastest way. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat and we'll answer your questions. So you offer
Yeah, and I will, the thing is, I'm going to just look at my other notes here real quickly. Tomorrow we are going to talk about how to sell without selling. I don't think of myself as a salesperson. I mean, I'm not here in an expensive suit. I'm in golf clothing, probably because I'm going to go hit golf balls later on this afternoon, because it's 65 degrees here in Charlotte. Ted likes to go skiing. I like to go play golf. So, but all of this sets up, okay? So understanding your values, finding patients, prospects that have a bleeding neck, and understanding that you need to sell like the doctor. People aren't going to argue with the doctor. Is all going to set up this opportunity to sell without selling. And when you can learn how to sell without selling, where you basically, again, think of it as a doctor. The doctor's not really selling you. They're telling you what is the prescription for fixing your ailment, your pain. And, you got an ingrown toe and you've tried everything else under the, they basically, you have an ingrown toe and you've tried a bunch of these homeopathic remedies online and it doesn't work. And then you go and you're like, doc, I'm just in pain. I see a good question here from Ron Pearson. It says, what ways can we get the prospect to tell us where they are bleeding and how badly? Well, we are going to cover that tomorrow, Ron, but I will say this. Ask a lot of questions, okay? So let's go back to when you meet with your doctor, okay? One of the things that we did in the clinics is we made them fill out their medical history. And then we made them, I would sit down with them after the doctor had been in and we got them a positive result. I would actually go back through all of their medical history. Now, in our case, I'll just use this as an example from a medical standpoint. There are certain medications that they take that cause erectile dysfunction, okay? High blood pressure, diabetes, anxiety, depression medications, okay? And so what I do is I ask them specific questions. So for example, if Ted were sitting in my office, I'll pretend you're the patient, Ted, that you have ED. So just play along. What I would do is I would go, so Ted, how long has this been going on? And so he's going to give me his answer. Well, it's been going on for a couple of years. Okay. Now, even though he's written in this form how long it's been going on, and even though he has written about the medications that he's taken, I'm still going to ask them a question. So what medications have you taken to try and fix this? Well, I tried the over-the-counter stuff at GNC. I tried the horny goat weed. I ordered Viagra from Canada. I went to a sex shop and I got, a pump and that didn't work. And, my wife and I started watching porn and that worked for a little while, but, it really didn't last. And, I talked to my doctor and he just gave me some free samples of Viagra and Cialis and none of it really seemed to work. Okay. So Ted, tell me, how does that make you feel? Okay. So Ron, what you're going to notice is I'm not talking, I'm asking questions. See, when a doctor goes in, he diagnoses something. And I learned this, when I would hang around doctors, is they would ask a simple question and they would listen and they would write notes. So what they're doing is they're honing in, okay? They're bracketing in to try and find the answer or find out the real issue. And then what they're going to do is they're going to give you a prescription, quote unquote, a prescription. Could be a protocol, could be a treatment, could be a pill, whatever, for you to be able to feel better. Okay, it could be a surgery. But you want to keep asking them questions related to their pain. So again, if I'm working with someone and I'm doing some kind of a marketing audit, or say I'm finding out about their marketing situation, be like, look, what are you doing right now? How is that working out for you? What's it like for you when you invest money in that and it doesn't work? What will happen to you if you don't get this problem fixed? Okay. And when they stop, one of my favorite things to do when they stop, like, what will happen to you if you don't get this problem fixed? Well, I don't know. I guess, we'll just kind of mutter along. Tell me more about that. And then when they answer it, I go, tell me more about that. Would you go a little bit further? Could you explain a little bit better for me? And when I get them to answer that question 3 times, and then every time you ask them that question of tell me more about that, or could you explain a little bit more deeply, they're going to talk longer and longer. And so what's going to happen is they're going to just, now you're finding the pain, and they're going to tell you where it hurts, and then you're just going to prescribe the solution to fix the bleeding.
So
I hope that helps, Ron.
Open-ended questions work a lot better than.
Yep, they work amazingly well.
And then they'll shut up.
Yep. It only took me 25 years to learn that, to ask a question and then shut the F up. So, once I did, I started making a lot more money. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Okay. Any other questions? What are we going to talk about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to sell without selling. We're actually going to dive in a little bit deeper to kind of some of this, what we just went over about the questions that you asked. But again, I want you to just think about, we're going to go back to this proof of concept, okay, showing that you can do this. Ron did ask another question, how do beginners prepare, right questions? Yeah, we're going to go over that more. Ron, what kind of, I'm just curious, what kind of industry are you in? Just if you could just chat with us a little bit here and tell us what you do, and then I'll give you a little bit more insight if you'd like. But yeah, tomorrow we're going to dive more into this about just kind of the questions that you ask. Scripts, I'm a big believer of scripts. You're using a script, whether you think you're using a script or not. Every position at our clinics, and remember, folks, we were doing $200,000 a month at each clinic. So I wasn't there every single day. I couldn't be. Every position had a script. Everything was scripted. I could tell you if I was on vacation in Barcelona whether or not those scripts were being followed. It's that simple, okay? So it's consultant to consultants and high performance professionals. Well, by the way, you want to find a tighter niche than that, like, high performance professionals, in the circus industry, right? Like be something to somebody, not some, you want to be something to somebody, not something to everybody, right? So you want to be something to somebody. Notice how they're singular, they're not plural. So I would just ask a lot of questions about, what's your biggest challenge? I'm actually going to go deeper into that question tomorrow. And we'll go over one of our favorite questions, is the Dan Sullivan question. That's one of the favorite questions that Ted and I like to use. And it's just one of them, but it's probably one of the most powerful.
Yesterday, I was talking to a guy on the ski lift, and he's a biotech salesperson. His company just got acquired, and all they wanted was the technology, or what they had. Mm-hmm. Everybody's losing their jobs in 2 weeks. They said, this is the 3rd time this has happened to me in 6 years. So that target market would be biotech salespeople that keep losing their jobs. So you coach them, if you were a coach, how to change careers or try to find a more stable place to get a job.
Yep.
It's hard these days.
Exactly. Yep. There's always opportunity.
Yeah.
There's always somebody with a bleeding neck.
So any other questions? Anything from the Facebook crowd? I think that's it.
All right.
I've got to go hit the slopes because the storm is coming in, and I got to get out of here before I get snowed in.
All right.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Have a great day, everyone. See y'all. Bye-bye.